Namaste India and welcome to IndSamachar. The much talked about peace agreement between Israel and the UAE is not only first such move between Israel and an Arab majority state in years, but also the beginning of a geopolitical shift in the Gulf region. Each country involved had much to gain in ending decades of hostility. For decades, there has been a consensus among many Arab and Muslim majority states that they will not end a state of hostilities with Israel until the latter agrees to a deal granting Palestinian statehood. For Israel, the deal is also important for ending its regional isolation and boosting its international standing. So where do the Gulf regional alliances and tensions stand, and how does it influence the global geopolitical situation? Decades after independence in 1948, Israel and neighboring Arab majority states fought a series of wars. In 1979, Egypt signed a peace deal with Israel. The Arab League suspended Egypt's membership in response. In 1994, Jordan became the second in the region to recognize Israel and sign a peace treaty. Despite the treaties on paper, Egyptian and Jordanian relations with Israel have hit some lows over the years. Public sentiments in support of Palestinian rights and against Israel remain high in Jordan and Egypt. Israel maintained a relatively stable relation with Morocco and Tunisia without a formal peace agreement. Before 1948, there was robust Jewish community in many Middle Eastern and North African countries, including Morocco and Tunisia. That changed after Israel's establishment and a mass migration to Israel. Post the peace accord between Israel and the UAE, more Arab states in the Persian Gulf might follow suit. Bahrain's announcement that it would become the fourth Arab state to normalize relation with Israel was arguably the most significant clue, yet that Saudi Arabia, the heavyweight of Gulf politics, might be moving in the same direction. However, in 2002, Saudis pushed for the Arab Peace Initiative, which called for Israeli withdrawal from Palestinian lands it occupied in the 1967 war in exchange of Arab states recognizing Israel. Lebanon, Syria and Iraq all have icy relation with Israel and no diplomatic ties given the history of wars. While Israel and Iraq have tense ties, over the years, Israel and the Kurds base in North Iraq have developed quite alliances of convenience. Though the two have not formalized relation, they have built up relation through trade and intelligence sharing. Israel and Iran were also quite close before the 1979 revolution in Iran. Iran still has a sizable Jewish community, though many have immigrated to Israel or the United States. Israel views Iran as its major threat amid a growing alliance with the like-minded United States and other Arab states. Turkey and Israel used to unofficially have close military ties. However, in recent years, relations have soured as Turkey's sought a more prominent regional role. The turn of events in the short run earned a diplomatic feather for US President Donald Trump before the November election, and this may bump up some of his flagging support among the Jews. And for India, this is an obvious opportunity to give itself a bigger role in a region which is its strategic backyard. India enjoys a great security relation with Israel, and this will open up doors for a greater opportunity of defense and security relations with UAE. That is all for now. Thank you for watching. Please follow IndSamachar.